Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. Today, as promised a while ago, we have Todd Smith back. We're going to hear about all things relegated soccer, a couple of pints and pies, as they say, kind of thrown into the mix, and a personal journey as well. I can't wait to dig into this. So that's coming up.
She's Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9. This is Dawn of Sports, part of TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any show at the network, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. We're also doing some of our shows via video on YouTube, like the John Krasinski Show. Check it all out. Great sports lineup, great outdoor lineup. And I really want to hear, Todd and I had coffee recently. We were talking about some other subjects. This wasn't even in the book. There's a moment in the book from his trip that I want to ask him about later in the show. That's called a tease. Back to Dawn.
That's called a deep tease in TV. It's like, wow, like, get me by the hook. Oh, little fish. Well, Todd, I know that I've been asking, like, when is the book coming out? When is the book coming out? We want to, especially with World Cup on the horizon. And I know this is, the English Premier League. And then you also went to Scotland. You went to all things soccer.
I did.
And you hung with the locals and you found out what relegation really feels like. Mm-hmm. Before we get into all of that, you survived your trip your reunion trip. How have you been?
I did. I barely survived it. It was a 3-month journey, I would say, mentally, spiritually, physically. It was awesome. But going into it, I really knew I had to prepare for that length of time on the road.
Yeah.
Because I was going into a lot of places that Americans typically don't go to. That's a nice way of saying they're very
not
rough.
Welcome?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
They're not welcome or they're really rough. And so, yeah, it took a lot out of me to get all the research done for the book. Took a lot out of me as well to write the book because you're trying to sort through 3 months on the road of all that great information and those characters and the storylines. So it takes a lot of mental fortitude to work through that sheer amount of material. So, yeah. So I'm really happy to be back because this conversation has been in waiting for about 2 years. So I'm really happy to share this with you, both of you, and Alex.
And Alex.
Yeah. Alex Haugen is our producer. Yeah. Thanks, Alex.
One question, Jim, that I know you and I talked about the last time that when we first had you on to talk about Hockey Strong, and you kind of planted the seed for this book. People know about relegation. If first of all, if they're soccer fans of, Premier League or anything overseas, they get it. But Americans are still like, well, what? Well, I saw Ted Lasso.
Right.
So let's get to the basics of what relegation is for people who may be listening and don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. In England and in most of European football, the football league is built in the shape of a ladder, where there's the top league, the English Premier League, which is the richest, most powerful football league in the world. And then the next rung is the championship. And the next rung is League One and then League Two. And then you go all the way down like 50 levels. And how relegation and promotion comes into play is every single season, the top 2 teams from each division get promoted to the league above them. And then if you finish in the bottom 3, you get relegated to the league below you. So what that means is every single season in English football, there are battles at the top of the table to move up. And then there's battles at the bottom of the table to stay up. Because as you move up, you get more money, more exposure, better players, that juicy TV deal. Everything is tied into promotion and relegation. And another way of looking at it is, let's say the Minnesota Vikings have a terrible season. And
what?
For some reason,
Jim's biting his tongue.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the Vikings' problems is they don't have enough really bad season where they could reset. They're always good enough to have to try the next
good
year.
Enough to compete. Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So then let's shift gears to the Twins.
Well, I didn't want to change it.
No,
the Twins.
Well,
the Twins are
So
the Twins are the
story.
relegation eligible team.
The perfect example would be the Twins.
Mm-hmm.
That they finished second in the AL last year, the worst team. And this offseason, nothing happened. They didn't improve the team. Your man Lavelle just posted a great piece about they're basically offering bribes.
$2 beers,
$2 beers and a free ice cream and all this stuff. Where they can be terrible. They're allowed to be terrible forever. Whereas the team that I support in the English Premier League is the hat that I'm wearing is Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton is a town in the Midlands. Back in the day, it was like the black lung of the Industrial Revolution. No one would know about Wolverhampton if they didn't have a football team, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a yucky part of the country, but they've had a great football club on and off, but for a really long time. But Wolves are going to get relegated this season. So what that means is they're going to drop from the English Premier League down to the Championship. Real stakes at play. They're going to lose $150 million, which means they're going to have to sell all of their top players, which means the success on the field is going to go down. Yeah. Which means they
could go lower.
They could go lower. So what that means is now is they're going to have to acquire players to replace them, but they don't have the money to do it. And so when the team starts to suffer, the gate will suffer. When the gate suffers, the corporate sponsorships suffer. And now you're in this vice grip of the lower leagues.
And the town suffers.
And the town suffers
economy,
because
I'm
of the economy, the jobs, the basic vibe of the town will go down. And a lot of the places that I went to, the team was all the town had.
Yeah.
And so there's so much civic pride tied into the team. And when the team does really well, there's more jobs, there's buzz, everything. And so Wolves will go down and we don't know if they'll ever be back up. So those are real stakes when you compare it to the Twins, where last year they had the Minnesota Twins had that fire sale at the end of the season, or it was like August where they offloaded all these players. And then like later in the season, they had like a bring your dog event it was like Bark at the Park or whatever. There was 9,000 people there in that huge stadium. And it was just sad for me to watch as a fan. And then the off season comes and then you find out that the Twins didn't really improve at all.
Well, they're selling, then they weren't selling. Yeah, then it was a different ballad.
All that stuff. But the beauty of the relegation is that the other side of that coin is promotion. So now you look at a team called Stockport County that it's like a steel-toed boot of a city. It's just one train stop south of Manchester. It was a really, really hard, ugly, dirty place in the Industrial Revolution. One of the worst. So Stockport as a city reflected that for decades, if not a century. But they have a great football club, Stockport County, known as the Hatters, because they used to make all the hats back in the day. And now Stockport County is in the direct shadow of two of the biggest clubs in world football. So you have Manchester United, you have Manchester City. You have this runty little brother down here that they would just make fun of relentlessly for 100 years. Stockport was known as a yo-yo club. So they would go up and down, up and down, up and down. And then they went into that death spiral, bad ownership, and they basically got relegated out of league football, which means they go into this wilderness of the lower leagues and where there's no money and all the players are like delivery drivers and electricians and plumbers and stuff. And the town again reflected that, like relegation, one of the worst cities in England. Just a really gross place to go. But Stockport in the last decade got a new owner, and he put a little money into the club. They brought in the analytics expert from Manchester City. Mm-hmm. And so he changed the way in which they played football and recruited football, the players. And then they just went about into the community, and they went into the schools, into the streets, and Stockport County got promoted. And then they got promoted again. And then 2 years ago, they got promoted over Wrexham into League One. Mm-hmm. And now Wrexham is in the championship, and Stockport County is fighting for promotion, and they're still in League One. But now Stockport as a city is it's buzzing. It's one of the best young places to move to for young families. So these are real stakes. So you can see how the city and the team reflect each other, but they're tied together. And that is all because of relegation and promotion. So whereas here, I listened to Jim's podcast with Krasinski, and I watched your television show. And like the other day, the Timberwolves just laid a dog. They're just a dud on the 76ers. And I was upset because I'm a huge Wolves fan, but it didn't ruin my day. And I didn't set anything on fire. And, I didn't.
That we know of.
That we know of, yeah. But over there, the stakes are so real that the investment of the supporters is that real too, which is a fascinating thing as a Minnesota sports fan to dip into. You're like, oh, this is for real. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let's just get the ads out of the way so we can have a nice long conversation here. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Once again, the title of the book, Relegated, One American's Pints and Pies Journey from the Top to the Bottom of English Football, I believe is the rest of the title. So Relegated is the name of the book. I've read it. I love it. I highly recommend it.
Before we go a little further, because I do want to pick your brain, like how relegation would not, NBA has teams that just tank for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. And we know that that's a big issue. But like you said, the whole structure is different over here, so you can't really do it. But what was your personal journey? I was really taken by that. So it wasn't just, this is relegation, I'm going to educate you all about it. This was a personal transformation for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea for this book came to me at my lowest point as a writer. And I had written 2 books, Hockey Strong and then Brave Enough with Jesse Diggins. And it didn't generate any more work for me in the future. And I found myself working in landscaping, which I still do, which I'm very proud of. But it definitely felt like my writing career was kind of on its last legs. And I kind of felt relegated in a lot of ways. Then the idea for this book came into play that I related to the people that were in these small forgotten towns, these factory towns. Like you see them going nuts in the crowd, and then you scratch into the surface of where they're from, places like Grimsby and little towns in Scotland. Those are the places that I could relate to. Kind of calloused, hardworking, heart of gold, maybe, but just kind of forgotten. And then I decided to give this one more go. And I was considering this to be my last book. Right. And I don't know. I just felt like I owed it to myself to do that. And so Bob Dylan said, when you got nothing left to lose. Mm-hmm. So I figured out a way to make it happen, which was I didn't have any money to afford a 3-month trip. Right. As a landscaper. And so I just dug into this and like, how do I make this happen? And so as a working person, as a landscaper, I just set out in that manner. What's the first thing that I have to do to make this happen? And so I went about that as a worker. And it paid off. I was, I didn't have an agent at the time, and you need an agent to sell the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And to audition for an agent is no different than an actor or a musician or anything like that. So, and I was getting rejected by agencies all over the world. And I finally got 2 little nibbles on a Sunday night from 2 agents in New York. And they both set up interviews for the next week. And I had my first interview, and I bombed it because he asked me a question, which I didn't know the answer of, and which was, so you want to go travel for 3 months in the UK, going to all these English and Scottish towns. Well, what ties them together? And I couldn't answer that. And so I bombed the interview. And then I had 2 days, at 48 hours before the second interview. And so all I did was obsess about that question, and I got an answer for it. And the thing that tied them all together was relegation, which tied to my own personal story. And so then I go into that interview, the second interview. And so weird. The second agent asked me the same question, same words. And this time I nailed it. But I felt like I needed to go more. So I went all in, like chips in. And during the interview, I was at work, and I was in a storage room filled with landscaping tools. It's an isolated corner of my work known as the panic room, right? And so I was in the panic room, and the agent asked me this question and about what ties these things together and relegation. And I told him I feel relegated as a person, as a writer, as a worker. And then I just said, dude, I'm calling you from a room full of shovels. And he was like, who the hell are you? And I was like, I'm Todd Smith. And he said, okay, this is what we need you to do. And the agent walked me through what I needed to do in the next 2 months. And so I just drilled down. I'm a working person. Like I know how to put a shift in. And so that's all I did. And I got a proposal together. We got it super tight. They reviewed it. They signed me. They sold it to Simon Schuster. It never went to the open market.
Wow.
Yeah. And so now I just keep talking, but part of the thing is, so now I go on this 3-month.
Now the pressure's
trip.
on, right?
The pressure's on to complete the book.
Yeah.
To get the research,
right.
to get all the storylines. But I'm going into these places that I've never been, but I understand the way they work. So in a lot of ways, I went to take communion with my people, right? And so the second stop was East London, right? And really rough, super Cockney, East End, gangsters, the whole thing. And
you're American.
And I'm American.
As they come.
I'm Todd Smith from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And the second person I met just labeled me Todd from America. And from that point on, that became the transformation. So I went from this guy that works at a landscaping supply yard, and I became Todd from America, that was willing to do everything. Our friend Jesse Diggins.
Yes.
I mean, she always says you got to empty that tank.
Yeah.
And so I emptied the tank. And so I became Todd from America. And I went into all these different places. The first thing I did was, hello, I'm Todd from America. it offset everything. People were like, oh, okay. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And now there was a conversation.
Yeah.
And then, so that was the transformation that I went through. So the first draft of the book wasn't that transformation. The first draft of the book was very, I would say, standard sports writing. Like I went reporting and I reported all the details and stuff. And then halfway through, my editor at Simon Schuster, Max, he set up a phone call. That's never good, right?
Yeah, right.
we need to talk.
Like called into the principal's office.
Yeah, 100%. And he said, you know what? You're the story. Not necessarily the trip in England, but the heart of the story is your transformation. So I want this to be a memoir. I want it to be a travel memoir. So all of a sudden it flipped it on its head. So I had to rewrite the whole thing while I was working full time. But again, you have to empty that tank. And that's what I did. And now I sit before you and with the book done.
Yeah.
It's in the can. It's coming out in May. So
you have a release date?
Yeah, it's May 19th.
May 19th. You have that circled?
Yeah. Yeah, I
red
do. Yeah.
Blue. Red, white, and blue. Todd from America.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim, what was that question that you wanted to ask?
Well, Todd and I were talking about the book. We just had coffee and we're chatting about all these things. And it was during the absolute heart of ICE terrorizing Minnesota. And he ended up telling me a story about a man he came across in Ireland. And my sister did the 23andMe thing or whatever it's called. And we discovered that she and I are 93% Irish. The average person living in Ireland, 86% Irish. So we have different ties over there. We both visited over there. And listening to Todd talk about this gentleman at a time when ICE was, committing all their disgusting acts in Minnesota just really grabbed me. So I'd like Todd to talk about that.
Yeah. This story was very, it's a good example of the journey that I went on for the book, where I would go into a town that I had never been in, that I'd researched to the 10th degree, bus routes and the whole thing. And I would just kind of blend in a little bit. And then I would follow my writer nose. And it's no secret that I want to continue to do this, that I want to write a sequel. And I'm prepared to write the sequel. And so I went to do some research in the north of Ireland or Northern Ireland. And I was in Belfast for a little bit. And then I traveled to Derry, the city of Derry, or it's Londonderry if you're English or Protestant. And so I go to Derry. It's a historic city. It's where Bloody Sunday happened from the U2 song. That Derry is, their percentage of Irish Catholics is massive, but it was minority rule there for centuries, meaning the English controlled all the schools, all the jobs, everything. And the Northern Irish, the Irish Catholics, didn't have the same civil rights. And this mirrors the American South. And so they had all these rules in place to kind of hold them down. And a lot of it came to in the 60s and 70s during the civil rights marches in Derry, in a neighborhood called the Bogside. And the Bogside is outside the legendary city walls that are still there. And it was the worst land that they would put the Irish Catholics on. And there's a bunch of, they would refer to them as council estates, but they're like housing projects. But that's where the football team is. So Derry Football Club, Derry City Football Club is down kind of close to the Bogside. And I went down there to visit the Derry, the Museum of Free Derry. So it's a civil rights museum down in the Bogside. That's where they have all the great murals of big moments in in Irish history are down there. And I go into the Museum of Free Dairy. It's a civil rights museum. And the first guy that I met said, he'd be like, he worked there.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, oh, he noticed my accent. He was like, where are you from? I said, America. I'm Todd from America.
Mm-hmm.
What state? I said, Minnesota. The whole tour stopped. And he just said, we, the people of Derry, stand with the people of Minneapolis. And I was like,
I just got chills.
Yeah. I was like, oh, it's terrible. And he knew more about it than I did, because I was on the road at that point for 3 months or 3 weeks. Sorry. I went from Amsterdam to Scotland to the Republic of Ireland to Northern Ireland. And so I was checking in with what was going on with Metro Surge, but I was so far removed from it that I didn't know all the details. I saw the pictures, I read all the great reporting, but so the guy running the museum knew everything, because he told me that, he said, what we're seeing in the streets of Minneapolis is what we've seen for 100 years here, that they could relate to it and they knew exactly what was happening. And it was really, at that point, everything like really kind of came down. And he explained to me, he said, as you go through the museum, everything in here represents what's happening in Minneapolis. And I didn't quite know what he was going to say or what that meant. So then I went through the museum and he was 100% right. There was all these sport coats that were on mannequins and stuff that had the bullet holes in them. These were civilians. These were people in the streets sticking up for their fellow Catholics or fellow Irish. And so it was just really, really surreal to have that happen. And then, my water bottle here has the sticker on it. You are now entering free dairy. And so that was put up during the Bloody Sunday riots. And so I go through that experience and I'm shook. And I go outside. It's a lovely day. It's about 3 p.m. and I'm in Derry and I need to get back to the train station. I don't have a particular time I need to get back to Belfast, but it's kind of like, I should probably
make my way.
Yeah. And so I make my way like a block away and I'm on a street corner and it's like one of those roundabouts, but there's like traffic lights on either side of it. So it's like really screwy to an American. I can't really figure out the traffic patterns. And so I'm waiting on the street corner to cross the street and up walks a gentleman who's like in his 70s, maybe. And we make eye contact. And again, this is very much how the whole book happened with Relegated. I said, hello. And he said, hello, where are you from? I said, I'm Todd from America. And he said, oh, what state? And I said, Minnesota. Second time. And he says, oh, the people of Derry stand with the people of Minneapolis. So now I'm having a conversation on a street corner with a 70-year-old man from the north of Ireland. And we have a great conversation. And then at the end of the conversation, he says, I probably should tell you that I'm Billy from the Bogside. And I'm like, that's great, but I don't know what that means. Yeah. I'm Todd from America. Yeah. And he said, oh, well, that's me on the wall behind you. And so I was like, okay. And so then I turned around and the mural behind me that's covering this huge wall is a mural of one of the most iconic pictures from the Troubles, where you have a civilian, you have a young man who's standing in a street with a shield that's basically a cage, and he's holding a stone, and he's in like a denim, like a jean jacket and like bell bottoms. He's got shaggy hair. He looks really cool. But the picture's from the back, and so there's a civilian holding a cage and as a shield and a stone, and he's staring down a British tank that it's coming to run him over.
Wow.
And it's one of the most iconic photos of that era. And I hit him with a basketball timeout.
Yeah.
I was like, timeout. I was like, that's you on the wall? And he's like, yeah, I'm Billy from the Bogside. I'm Billy McVie. And so now I'm like, okay, we're in this.
We need to have a drink and talk.
Yeah. And I'm in this foreign country. it's getting later. I don't know quite like how to proceed. So I immediately get his cell phone number. But then we're just having, I have Irish blood too. And like, we're just in it together. And he's like, look at my skin on my face and look at how disfigured my nose is. And I'm like, classic Minnesotan, like, northern sun. I was like, oh no, you look great.
Yeah.
You look great. And I said, oh, is your modeling career over? And he laughs and he's like, no, look at it. And so what he wanted me to look at was his skin was super glossy and super tight. And his nose was like, disfigured. It was a different color. And he said, I have cancer from the Agent Orange that they used in the streets in Derry. And he's like, it's the same Agent Orange that they used in Vietnam, which, my Uncle Frank died from Agent Orange. And so I was like, oh my God. And I remember his skin being the same way. So I was like, dude, the whole story of my whole experience was like coming down on the street corner in Northern Ireland. And we're just, as the Irish say, we're having good crack, right? We're just in this having a great convo. And so we part ways. He gives me a t-shirt with the mural on it. And on the back of it has like the Declaration of Independence for Ireland. And he gives me like a photo of it signed. And the next day I'm in the Belfast airport and I'm moving on in my journey back to Manchester to do more book stuff. So I just reach out to this guy, Billy, and I find him on WhatsApp. And there he is. And I just sent him a note. Just said, hey, it's Todd from America. I just want you to know that was a great convo. And I'm so honored to meet you, and it turns out, he had been imprisoned and tortured for years in a prison that's now the hospital in which he gets his chemo.
No.
And he's like, you can't make this up. Right. And so now and I mean this, about every day I get a note on WhatsApp from Billy.
Really?
And it's him singing in a pub, Creedence Clearwater Revival, or it's some Irish patriot talking about this or that. And it's all related to Minneapolis.
Wow.
And he's sending me information of what they're seeing in Minneapolis or in the north of Ireland. And so we again have like another connection. And it just really represented the entire spirit of the book that I had written, and also what I want to keep going.
Yep. Human regulation.
It's humans with relegation and promotion, but it's also humans connecting with each other. And so, that came organically, profoundly. It changed my life. But I had moments, maybe not as, I don't want to say like as important. That's not the word, but I had moments like that in every town I went to in the UK. And I think they were happening is because I wasn't going there as, a big named reporter or, just covering a game, like a game.
Well, it was like a vision quest.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I was kind of meeting the people where they were, but I was also in that same spot. And so when I would go to the games with them, it really wasn't, it was a huge deal for me. I had to be very careful about, I almost could never bring on a tape recorder or a digital recorder or even a notepad. So I would say I wrote about 75% of my notes for this book in toilet stalls of pubs and stadiums. Where I could go and shut the door.
Yeah,
and I would,
shut the door and so you don't forget it,
yeah,
right?
And I would scribble it all down. And then I obviously was recording a lot of it, but more sit down interviews and stuff. But if you're in the away end, which is something we should probably go into, but I was in the away end in multiple games, which means you're in a cage, you're in a holding pen.
Really?
Yeah. And it is the most hardcore element of football, and you're not going to bring out a notepad. And so you're constantly like, I would have a Sharpie marker and I was writing like basically on my arm or my hand, just letters that would remind me to,
of that moment.
Yeah. It would be like
a
TA meant tattoo.
Yeah.
And like all these
it's like
different
shorthand.
It was shorthand, but I was because they wouldn't notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they just thought you were strange, Todd from America, writing on his arm.
Well, they already knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
anything to jog your memory. So when you got back to your hotel room or you got back to like a bathroom, you could write it down so you wouldn't forget and be in that moment.
Yeah. And I would spend basically all night like journaling.
Yeah.
And going through everything. And I would you could bring your phone out to take pictures. That was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So then I could, because that was normal, like to take photos and stuff. And so then I would go back and then do all the details and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was intense. But at the same time, I blended right in because I mean, I'd live for this, like football. Like I posted the other day on Sunday, I was up at 8 a.m. watching this nothing team warm up. And I could not have been happier, so, which is just not normal, but it is normal over there.
I think it's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in an away pen?
No. But I mean, that's actually, let's get to that because that is different than American sports.
Yeah. So like the away end, so there's the home crowd.
Yeah. Which is the safer place to be, obviously. Right?
Unless you're an opponent, and then they'll kill you.
Yeah. And then in the away end is an area designated in every football stadium for the team of the away, for the fans of the away team. Mm-hmm. You have your own entrance and exit, and you cannot leave that cage. And you cannot intermingle in the rest of the stadium. You have your own concessions and your own bathrooms. And most times they will hold you in that cage until the stadium empties. And then when you come...
Because they don't want bloodshed, literally, right?
And they're in England and Germany and France and in Spain, they're in the business of moving people in terms of crowd control.
Yeah.
And it is illegal. It's punishable by law and fines and street justice to root for the away team in the home end. And it says so. I know this because I support Wolves. And so I went to see Wolves away at Brighton. And Brighton's on the South Coast. It's one of the most lovely parts of England. Mm-hmm. But I was in an area with 3,000 away supporters. And I think I went through 4 security checkpoints to get into the away end. And when I bought my ticket, it said so on the ticket. It was like, you cannot sit in the home stand.
Wow.
And even more to the point, you can't wear your colors in the home stand, meaning there was no yellow or black or old gold in the home stands for Brighton. So you go in there and you're in there, and it is the Alamo. There's 3,000 of you, there's 10,000 of them. So your songs are going back and forth. and you're separated by either an empty stadium section with security or a physical cage. Or like if it's like a softer place, they'll just have literally 50 security guards in a row on each side. But when you go into that away end, it's us versus them. It's the whole thing. So the North versus the South, the whole thing, the Catholics versus the Protestants, you have all of these things mixed in. But it is so amazing to do that because as an away fan, you're only the most diehard because this game was like on a Monday night. So all these supporters have basically given up that day to do this. And they bring with them their decades of supportership, generational. They bring with them their songs, their chants, their colors. Everything comes with them for this game on a Monday night on the South Coast. And it is goosebumps when you hear the songs that have traveled the distance, hundreds of miles, generational, and they're still singing those same songs. And it is amazing. And I did this as well with the Everton fan. And Everton is in Liverpool, which means they're Scouse. And they are the most hardcore. And they have their own accent, their own way of doing things. They consider them Scouse. They consider themselves Scouse before they consider themselves English. And if you're an Everton fan, you will not refer to yourself as a Liverpudlian because it's got the word Liverpool in it, which represents the other team, Liverpool FC. And so it is
that hardcore.
It is that hardcore. And so I got the opportunity to go to an Everton away game down to Fulham, which is basically like in our, where we're from here, it would be like going down to Edina to a game. And so I'm on one of 9 or 10 buses with the Scousers, and we're going into Fulham. And I hadn't experienced anything like that.
And they welcomed you onto the bus. They knew that you were Todd from America, but you were doing
and I had to
thing,
I got
right?
vetted. This wasn't like,
I was going to say, you just can't pop up and show up.
And I had to I had to meet them multiple times the whole thing. And, and I basically wore all my work clothes, right? I wore my steel toes, my double kneed pants, my black rain slicker, a black hat. I was ready for anything. But I was prepared. Like I said, I met them where they were. And so you go through that experience and I just start naturally asking questions. Like, what do you do for work? And the guy's like, oh, I'm a teacher. And I'm like, what? The game's at 7. We're not going to get home till 4 a.m. He's like, oh, I have a deal with my work that the day after away games, I only have to work a half day. I can come in at noon.
Oh, wow.
And on 9 or 10 buses, every single supporter had an arrangement like this.
Wow.
Where they were they just committed to the life of an Everton fan.
But that's part of the pride, probably for the workplaces as well.
Yeah.
Right?
And
they're doing it for the cause.
They're doing it for the cause. And we're halfway down, maybe even more than halfway down between Liverpool and London. And we pull over at a truck stop. And I told Jim this story before. We pull over at a truck stop and I'm like, why are we stopping? And they're like, oh, we're making too good of time. And I'm like, well, isn't that a good thing? They're like, no, we can't arrive at Fulham outside of a window of time. And I was like, why not? And they're like, oh, because we'll burn things and we'll get too drunk. And so they have laws in place that the away supporters, the buses can't arrive outside of a window because they have a
because of things in the
they've
past.
committed war crimes.
Yeah. And then, so we're at a truck stop, and basically my handler, my Scouse handler, who vouched for me.
Yeah.
He was like generational Everton fan. And he was like, hey, you want to see my dad's Everton tattoos? And I was like, I don't know. Do I? He's like, you do. So then the dad, who's like in his 60s, in the middle of a truck stop parking lot, jacket off, sweatshirt off, shirt off, shows me he's got an entire back with 23 tattoos on his back. And it looks like what would be a high school yearbook with all the portraits. And it's 23 faces of Everton legends tattooed to his back. And so, and he's like, look at it. So now I'm like looking at this dude's
yearbook on his back.
On his back. And so my first question is, because football players, English football players, aren't necessarily like, they have a history of not being like the greatest.
Yeah.
So my question was, do you regret any of these faces on the back? And he was like, I regret one. And I was like, why? And he's like, because when I met him and I told him that I had his face tattooed to my back, he said it was mental. And then he's like, can you believe that? And I said, yeah. I said, what part of this is not mental? I was like, it's a Monday. We've given up like our entire day and lives for the next 2 days to go watch a football game that's 2 hours long and then get back to Liverpool at 4 a.m.
And the fact that he was so mad that he called it mental is what makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Right?
And I was what part of this
is sane?
And like none of it was. But then I go into that away end with them at Fulham. And that is actually where the epiphany happens for me during the book trip. That's where I changed. Like that was the moment that everything kind of changed for me, was that moment. And the guy with the tats was literally on my left.
Wow.
Right. And his son was on my right. And I thought, okay, like we've
crossed that threshold.
I crossed the threshold.
Yeah.
I crossed the threshold to the point of, and this didn't make the book because of editing. This is a Dawn of Sports exclusive.
Nice.
So we get back into Liverpool proper at 4 a.m. and it's pouring rain, and it looks like Gotham. Okay. And I mean that literally because they filmed Batman in Liverpool.
Yes.
So it's pouring rain. It's 4 a.m. and I have to get a ride from somebody from the stadium back where the bus dropped me off back to the downtown. And this guy, for some reason, didn't want to go fully into the downtown. So he's driving through these alleyways, and it's like Batman. And it's like the walkways and the rain and the darkness. And they got a lot of problems in Liverpool on the streets, right? So this dude drops me off like a couple blocks from my hotel. So I'm like, okay, but again, I'm like in it. This is the worse it is, the better the story. So I like walk 2 blocks to my hotel. Now I'm just drenched, and it's, 4:30 at this point in the morning. And I walk into the lobby of the hotel, and a security guard is at the desk, and there's the one to my left. And they both immediately shoot up and they yell, "Stop," to me, right? Keep in mind, I'm in all black, right? And I immediately, as an American, put my hands up and said, "Don't shoot." And they were like, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm Todd from America. And they were like, just straight up called BS on that. And I said, I'm a guest of the hotel. And I said, my passport is in my left pocket. Can I reach for it? And the guy's like, yes. So I reach for it. And I'm like, can I hand this to you? And he was like, yes. So I hand it to him. And then they go both around the desk and they check that I'm a guest of the hotel. And then a guy brings back my passport. And he's like, Mr. Smith, have a good rest of your night. And I had realized, I was like, okay, I looked the part.
Yeah.
And the guy apologized and he said, we're sorry, Mr. Smith, for the confusion. We thought you were, and I said, Scouse? And he said, yeah. And I was like, all right. And then I was kind of shaken by it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went up to my hotel room and I was finally like out of this long odyssey of, the journey of the bus and the security and all this kind of stuff, I took a moment and I was like, like I've made a transition here. Like we've gone from just being a reporter and a writer, and Todd from America, we've transitioned into something else.
To experiencing the reality,
to like,
the level of it.
Yeah. And like, I was like, oh, okay. And so that didn't make the book, not because it's not a great story, but it's just kind of like an editorial thing where it's like, that chapter ends better.
Yes.
Like that chapter ended better with the epiphany, right?
Yes.
Right. And so it's just like, you kind of have those things as a writer that it's a great story that
it's very Tommy Shelby-ish.
Yeah.
From Peaky Blinders, you know?
Yeah. Well, Alex and I were just talking previously about Birmingham.
Yes.
And where Peaky Blinders is based.
Yes,
and I was just there. I went there to do research. Yeah. And it's and I got into Birmingham and never been there before. I didn't know how to get there. Figured my way out, how to get there. Night game, the whole thing. And man, I had made that transition to just being able to just navigate that world. Yeah. And then in the Birmingham train station, there's a giant mechanical metal bull that is like automatronic, like it moves and it spits steam. And it's like as big as a building. And its name is Ozzy, because that's where Ozzy's from. And I was like, okay, I think we might come back to Birmingham.
Now you're going to go visit that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. After all those experiences, for me, growing up in the East Coast, where, Red Sox hated Yankees.
Yeah.
And there's no exception except for Derek Jeter. And it's not that Red Sox fans loved him, but they respected him.
Sure.
You talk to any Red Sox, fan, they'll be like, yeah, I respect Jeter, but, I've had friends from the Midwest or West Coast experience games back East. And they feel that, and I said, but that's so much less than it used to be, I mean, when I was a kid, it was probably a lot nicer, like you said, softer than the years prior. And it makes sense because the East Coast got a lot of immigrants that come over and they take that mentality of it's us against you. But I think now in America, people see it more as a business or you can go with your friend who's the fan of the opposition.
Sure.
Is it hard for you? It's almost like coming back to after, not that you're kissing the ground that you're in America that way, but so when you experience sports now on a different level, you're like, they're not that hardcore. Or do you enjoy it more or just
I enjoy,
surreal for you?
It is surreal.
Okay.
There's two things. In America, we have so many options.
Yeah.
Right? Like Wild, Vikings, Twins, Wolves. Like we just have so many more options. Where over there, if you're in the town of Arbroath on the northeast coast of Scotland,
that's all you have.
That's all you have. So you're ingrained in that. Your dad was, your grandfather was. So it creates that, which is why they need to separate the fans. Because again, they're bringing centuries of this. But I can give you a specific example. When I went through this, I came back and I was writing the book and I was fresh off the road.
Yeah.
And I was writing it. So I was reliving it again. And Wolves were in the playoff against the Lakers.
Yeah.
And my son Murphy loves hoops. Shout out to Murph. And we love to go to Wolves games together. And so we went to see when the Wolves went on that run, and we went to a game in each one of the rounds, and Lakers, Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're sitting in our section of Target Center, and we sit down, we're just hyped for this game. And then 5 guys come and sit right in front of us, and they're all wearing Laker kits or jerseys.
Yeah.
And they were cheering loudly and vocally. And I thought,
I got to put them in a cage.
This is garbage, and I just thought to myself, like, we need to put them
somewhere
in the corner. So the home fans don't have to listen to this or deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it'd be better for them too, because they could be with Laker fans. But I thought it was just kind of a funny moment. And I don't ever want to sound like that.
No, but it has to go through your head after that experience.
American soccer fan that's like, oh, it's better here and it's worse here.
No.
I never want to sound like that. So I just took a minute and I was like, yeah, it doesn't fly here.
Yeah.
So like I look at it differently.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be nice to just corner all the Philadelphia Eagles fans in one corner? Do you know what I mean? It's like put a fence around that.
I think with the Eagles fans, jail is what we need.
Yeah.
And because let's remember, Veterans Stadium had the first jail in American sports.
Yeah.
Really? That was the very
I have a
first
very
ever?
funny story about that. I'll tell some other time.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I knew there was jails. I didn't know it was the very first one.
Yeah.
I think it was the first one. If it wasn't the first one, it was the most used one.
Yeah. But I mean, you like, I'm a huge Minnesota sports fan. So you see the Vikings game and like, sometimes like if the home team isn't doing that well, the away fans have access to all the seats,
all the tickets.
And so you see on the screen, you see like all these like Golden State fans or all these green Packer jerseys. And it's just not, it's not cool, man. Just put them in a corner.
Also, deep down, American sports are really about the money. So if they can sell those tickets to an opponent, they will.
Yeah. Dawn, back to your question about relegation and promotion.
Yes.
So that's why we don't have it.
Exactly.
It's like there's 2 things. It's like that infrastructure has been around since 1870. I mean, that the structure is already built for them since the beginning. We don't have that infrastructure. And plus, is Jerry Jones going to give up the rich TV deal on the off chance that his team has a terrible run and then they get relegated to the Big Ten? Do you think he's going to give up the guaranteed money of the NFL? It's never going to happen. And you can cross all the teams in America in that mindset.
Right.
Capitalism is the number one thing for the sports. It's all about money, no matter where in the world. It's fascinating that Tottenham, right? Hotspur, you've both been to their stadium, which is the home of the NFL in London. The stadium is $1 billion. The team is worth $2.6 billion. Tottenham is in the relegation zone right now. They are in a 3-way tie with the 18th spot, meaning that club could get relegated. And you think those owners are, they are freaking out.
Yeah.
They will lose $150 million. And those owners are beholden to the English Football League system.
Yep.
That's been around since, 1870 or whatever. That's what separates us. And so in terms of like Tottenham is a direct, I would say, counterpart to the Vikings, right? They're always good. Sometimes they're great. No trophies. Avid fan base, great fans, great support, but they just never get there. So Tottenham it'd be like the Vikings getting relegated to the Big Ten. And you think the Wolves, is that?
The Wolves. Yep.
You think the Wolves would partake in that? No.
Which is why I am fascinated with ownership like the Wilfs or whether it's Tom Brady or whomever, when they go and buy a team over and I'm like, ooh, okay, this will be an experience. We'll see for how long they own the team.
Yeah, 100%. And I think
different if it's MLS. I'm just saying,
I think
but overseas.
Brady owns I think Birmingham or a part of Birmingham. And if that club, if they go down, what is Tom Brady going to think? Yeah. So,
and one of the actors too, doesn't, one of the Ryan
Wrexham.
Yeah, that's Wrexham.
It's Wrexham. Yeah. Do they get into it for fun, the love of the sport? We don't know, right? Like
they get into because they have so much money they don't know what to do with it.
And I'll just put it towards that. But if it's an eye-opening experience for relegation or not.
Yeah, and it was fascinating going into these forgotten towns.
Yeah.
And everything was hinged on relegation and promotion. And you just keep thinking to yourself, this is so not American.
And I liken it in my brain to when a factory shuts down in a small town and they employ everyone, right? What happens to those towns?
Yeah, so that's the chapter.
Yeah.
So people often ask me, how did you decide where to go?
Yeah.
Right. And it all came out of different searches of, I wanted to go to a factory town that lost its factory, that lost its industry, to see how that affects the town, but also the football club. And so Grimsby, voted the worst city in England, was the fishing capital for the UK for centuries. It's a port city. They invented refrigeration so they can move the fish right from the sea onto ice. They'd be fish and chips in London within the day. And that industry went away. The fishing industry is just cratered. And so when I went there to Grimsby, it looked no different than Akron, Detroit in the 80s. It was the same thing. And they have a proper football club that was full of factory workers, like the supporters. They had lived through just decades of urban blight and all that stuff. That was the city that almost killed me.
Literally, I bet.
Yeah. I don't drink and I have Crohn's disease. And so my diet's very restrictive, but I knew on parts of this journey, I was going to have to
have a beer. I was going to drink. And
it's not because of sobriety issues. It's because I have Crohn's disease.
Right.
And I have migraines. And so I haven't drank in 20 years.
And you can't say, hi, can I have a near beer?
Yeah. Do you have tea?
Do you have?
And so I gave my...
Are you gluten-free here in this pub?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, be that guy. Just...
they kill you.
I'm gluten-free and I can order Guinness in Ireland and be fine.
Yeah.
Life-saving measures for you, Jim.
Yeah. So anyways...
so you paid the price.
So I paid the price in Grimsby because I drank there more than I had drank in 20 years. And I had fish and chips. And let's just read the book. We don't. Well,
you had a lot of time to put your notes together in the men's room then.
That chapter was written.
That whole book was written in Grimsby's men's restroom.
In real time.
Oh, well, I could talk to you all day about this. I do look forward to having you on our TV show, but
yes.
Is it hard for you now, knowing that you have your baby, right? It's all swaddled up. You're just waiting to show it to the world, and then knowing that you have a number 2, a follow up on that.
Yeah, and
is that pressure or privilege?
It's only a number 2 if number 1 sells.
Okay,
so that it's not a given.
Okay,
but the way I operate is that you always have to be prepared for when they ask, you deliver it immediately.
Okay,
in journalism, in book writing, basically. And so that's what I'm preparing for.
Here's my spec or my proof.
Yeah, here I've already found all the cities I want to go to. I have everything dialed up. I have the route up. I have the themes of the chapters already dialed in. But number 1 has to sell for that to happen. So is there pressure? Yeah, because I want to keep doing this. And I want to keep doing this in the worst way. So I have to make sure that number 1 sells with an eye for the future. In terms of releasing your baby into the world, it's terrifying, because this is something you live with with a book. You live with it for months, in my case, years. And you live with this inside you, and then you build it, and then you release it. And now you let it into the world for people to read and hopefully enjoy, but also judge.
Yeah.
And so I think, to quote Jesse, you have to be brave enough to just go for it, for yourself. It's like any other art form, whether it's a album or you're acting, anything like that. You're putting yourself in a position of exposure and, the arrows. But I'm excited more than anything. Yeah. I'm excited for this to be released. So
I'm excited. Are they going to release it in Northern Ireland? You're going to send a copy to your buddies, to kind of get it out to the places where you were.
So Simon & Schuster just let me know that they're publishing it in the UK.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And so, which is huge.
Yes.
Because this story has been done 1,000 times over there. Never been done in this manner by an American, which is why it sold. The proposal
Fresh
sold.
eyes.
Yeah. So anyways.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Todd.
I love the whole thing. So
yeah. And
the baby will be celebrated.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And I've told both of you that I didn't get into writing for the fame or the money. I got in it just to make hopefully cool stuff and share it with friends.
Yeah.
And so this is the first podcast that I've done for the book.
Well, thank you.
And this
Appreciate
is the one
that.
that I was kind of, it was in my sight lines when I was writing, and I was like, I wanted this one to be the first pod, because this is what you had me on for Brave Enough and Hockey Strong. So it might sound weird, but I was thinking of both of you and Alex when I was thinking about what's the promotion going to look like for this book. So thank you for having me on.
Oh,
thank you.
We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Simon & Schuster.
Yes.
Yes. For giving us the green light.
Yes.
Well, congrats to you. This is going to be huge. I'm going to say it right now. It's going to be good. I can't wait for number 2. That's how I say it. Number 2.
Let's hope so.